Hello, everyone, and welcome. I would like to begin by thanking our incredible Starseeds Changing the World community. Together, we've achieved this amazing and beautiful milestone of reaching 4,000 subscribers on this channel. This is truly incredible, a big accomplishment, and I couldn't be more happy that this work and just sharing all of this love has gotten out to so many people. So, to celebrate this remarkable achievement, I'm delighted to let you know that we are releasing a series of masterclasses to the community for free. These classes are from our own private Crystal Academy, and I'm certain that you'll find them incredibly educational, activating, and useful. These master classes have been designed to enhance your ascension process, and we hope they will provide you with the knowledge and skills you need to reach your fullest potential. Whether you're a beginner or an expert, I'm confident you'll find something in these classes that will benefit you, bring forward an aha moment, or spark something from within. Most importantly, these master classes are created with the same level of care and attention that we put into all of our other videos and courses from our academy. Our team of starseeds, myself and my beloved, truly want to bring this as an enjoyable experience for you. I know you'll all benefit from these classes, and I believe that together we can achieve an even greater potential. I can't wait to see what amazing things we can do next within this amazing Starseed community. So from my heart to your heart, thank you so much for being on this incredible spiritual journey, and let's continue to make a difference in the world. My name is Richard Melchizedek, and thank you for supporting this channel. Now, if you have any videos that you would like to see or topics you would like me to speak on, please let me know in the comments. Let me know how you enjoyed the master classes, and we'll see what else we can build from this point of 4,000 subscribers. Welcome to the Bioregenesis. My name is Richard Melchizedek.
And I am Rosalie Bridget.
I'm just honored to be here with each one of you today. Last night we wrapped up our Christed Star Child blueprint, and that has been quite the transformative journey. So we have that's now ready and completed. The level of integration that the incarnate matrix goes through that was pretty significant and special. And we birthed a dragon egg last night, the solar child. So it was a very beautiful experience, and just kind of feeling those energies today, as well as that, has been a 3-month journey that we've been on as that came into completion last night. Now, before we dive into everything today, I'm going to do a quick space opening for the group. So if we can just place our hands on our hearts. I want you to find the heartbeat. And just allow your heart to soften. Take a deep breath in all the way to the toes. Breathe out through the mouth, just letting it all go. As we open, activate, and initiate our diamond crystalline pillar of light, our omnidimensional shield, and our God armor to be fully surrounded and synthesized as one through all bodies, vehicles, and shields now. As we call back all of our energy, all of our life force, our plasma, our power into this moment. We ground that diamond crystalline pillar of light down into the Earth star. And through the 12D hub, we bring up the purity of the 12th dimensional Earth frequencies through this crystalline pillar now, through our feet and our bodies. And we extend that diamond crystalline pillar of light all the way up beyond the galaxy, beyond the universe, and beyond the universal time matrix into the highest original, non-dimensionalized God planes of purity now. And from this place, we open God's temple of light around us here now. And we anchor a pillar of divine truth from God's temple all the way down into the crystalline core. And we call our highest selves forward into God's temple. And we open the temple of Hyros Gamos, our holy sacred sanctum for unity consciousness, and all of its diamond crystalline light, plasma, and harmonics, architecture, and structure around us here and now. As we clear any remote viewers, watchers, taggers, trackers, tracers, looking glass technology, quantum AI supercomputers from this space and field now clear. We open the sacred crystal directions of true north, south, east, west, earth, sky, and heart, sealing into the oneness and wholeness and through the 0-point crystal spiral mathematics, aligning to the original diamond heart of God in the 0-point field. And from this sacred space, we command the God sovereign laws, and this space is sacred in the name of God. Be holy, sacred, and pure. As we call forward now our Aurora families, our solar Christos families, Andromedan high councils, the Lyran elders, and royal houses, the Elohai, the Elohim, Amethyst order, Gold order, and Emerald orders, and Blue Ray families, our Braharama families, and Ramyana families, the interdimensional free world councils, and our ascended master Azurite lineages. Be here with us now. And our Syrian High Council. Beloved God, as we set the intent and alignment for this manifestation, for all that is shared, to be shared in a place of purity and sacred truth to support each one on this process of bioregenesis, as we open our bioregenesis purification and temple space now. And we fill this entire container with the Aurora Rainbow, pastel, crystalline, light and harmonics, anchor, lock, and seal through the hologram now. I'm just clearing the higher self channels. All right, just breathing into that. Anything you're holding on to that is taking up your energy or your attention and not allowing you to be fully present, just really give yourself permission to let that go. So you can show up here today that's going to be in a way that will be supportive for you. Handing it over to God. Allowing your body to soften. allowing your heart to soften, and opening the healing pathways for bioregenesis.
And just calling all of our energy, our life force, our plasma, our quanta to this present moment now. Cleansed, cleared, purified in God's perfect light as we give permission for ourselves to be fully here, fully in the present moment, as we let go of the past, we let go of the future, and we let ourselves know that we are worthy of being here now, receiving for our highest today as we remember the reason why we entered into this space. Whatever that reason is for you, whether it's to receive healing, to nurture yourself, to show up for yourself, to commit to your path, your devotion to your embodiment journey. Just remembering why we do what we do, why we give ourselves this space and this time to connect, to come together in community and unity, to open our hearts and to create space within ourselves so that we can truly be our best version of us when we go out into our lives, when we carry on with our day, when we show up for our families, remembering that we made this time here today so that we can be the best versions of us, so that we can fill up our own cups, so that we can feel nurtured, held, loved, supported, and that sense of well-being and connection and centeredness, that groundedness and that fulfillment within the self. And knowing that this is really why we are here in this space today, and all of your other reasons why your heart called you here, why your higher self called you here. We can soften and we can truly allow ourselves to receive that, to let go of the mental mind chatter and the expectations, the needing to figure out, or whatever it is that we're holding on to that is just creating any feelings of disconnection or any thoughts of needing to be somewhere else. We can just let that go. We can give that to God and to our higher self now. Milia kora maliano tria shakiliano mutarasha karasha la rutariana mati isiki ila mutorashkiana maana siki ila rumatria shaki ana siki. And sometimes we get so caught up in our routines that we forget to appreciate the good that's in our life, whatever that is, whether it's the blessing of having a community, the blessing of being awake on this journey, the blessing of friendships and partners who support us and love us, the blessing of receiving healing. Whatever those blessings are, may we truly open to see them and perceive them today, and to not discount them or forget how those little things and those small blessings really are what make all of this so worth it. And so just expanding that gratitude for this community space that we have created here today, and all of the beautiful pillars that have taken time out of their day to show up here, to bring forth their energy and their love, and for Mother, Father, God for holding us all here in this beautiful container with so much love and so much support. And just allowing for all of that to blossom and open within this space here today. Remembering the seeds and the intents that we have are what really grow this space, what allow it all to be what it is. And that it is the feeling behind why we do what we do that matters most. And the intention, the conscious intention behind it. Each choice that we make matters, and why we make those choices matters. And so just feeling into how special it is that you chose to be here today in this moment with all of us, and feeling that sense of well-being and peace that comes with knowing that you are exactly where you need to be, right here, right now, in this moment.
Beloved. Now, in the opening of Bioregenesis, when we started this journey, and I have spoken on this several times, but bringing up that remembrance of what neuroplasticity is, because what we're doing here in this like unplugging from the false ascension matrix, it requires a level of unlearning, relearning, and retraining for our energetic system, for our consciousness, and for our brain. So we've passed that 8-week mark now. We're in week 9. And it takes 8 weeks of practice every day, 15 to 20 minutes a day of mindfulness meditation and the techniques that we've been providing to begin the retrainment. So if everyone's been following it, you're now hitting that point where you're creating new neurological pathways. Your amygdala is beginning to shrink. And this is why we are in this, this is where the work begins. Not saying what you've done before hasn't been anything to do with, showing this great devotion, but you've been doing this work to get to this point. So I wanted to speak a little bit on this because once we're able to start retraining the brain, retraining our energetic systems and our bodies into this energetic plasticity and neuroplasticity, we're able to now start to create from that organic matrix, from your soul consciousness, and your full incarnate, like avatar matrix, to retrain, to start to make decisions and choices and responses from this. Because we've been trained in a way through the false ascension system to make more of those choices, those pathways in our lives. Everything from, just all the decisions, whether from financial to your thought patterns, your beliefs, to how you take care of yourself, and I've been grown up within that system. So now in the bioregenesis where we're at, it's about being the neutral observer within your life to witness through the 0-point field and to create that opening to choose something different. And this is the segue into speaking on shadow work and why shadow work is so important. Now, each one of you has an understanding of what shadow work is. You've been through it and you do it and you go through these expansion and contraction cycles in your life. So, with the shadow work and the understanding of this energetic and neuroplasticity, you are able to create a different pathway through the shadow work to up level your consciousness and restore the parts of yourself that are rehabilitating. So with this, I brought this message forward last night in our Christ Child Blueprint. Please do not be scared of shadow work, because shadow work is integral for you being all that you are. So any part of yourself that has been through a level of traumatization through the false ascension system needs to be rehabilitated. And we rehabilitate these parts of ourselves through shadow work, where the traumas, the limiting beliefs, the triggers, and the emotions are the shadows that are like coming into the light to signify there is this, unconscious patterns that are becoming made now into the conscious like field. So this is why I'm expressing about this, because before, one of the things as our Stardust seated family, we're really learning in how do we master our shadow? How do we master these cycles when everything is coming up to the surface? Maybe we're feeling lots of emotions or we're having racing thoughts. How do we choose a different pathway through this than what we've created already? If you're following me on that. So when I speak on the neutral observer, what we're talking about is being able to recognize when something is occurring or coming up for you, to have a level of like non-attachment to it and non-judgment. And this is the best way to really simply explain this like 0 point, like neutral observer state. Because when you start going through your shadow work or a shadow cycle, and you have grief or anger or whatever it may be that's coming up, or self-doubt, as soon as you judge it, as soon as you judge your experience as bad, as horrible, as tough, as challenging, why me? Now we have attached to it. And the ego mind and the mentalization is now going to try to overstimulate, mentalize, and process through the shadow work. And this creates a longer shadow cycle. All right. So with this, what we want to do when I'm saying like that 0 point, like neutral observer field, is when this is coming up, instead of us judging this as good or bad, just seeing this as a lesson, seeing this as an experience that's coming up for my consciousness to return, to process, to heal, to rehabilitate, is neither good nor bad. Because that duality perspective on the shadow work is what creates spirals, and it creates you to spiral out. So it's okay to feel, it's okay to experience this, but the duality perspective starts to create an over mentalization on the shadow work, and it actually slows down your progress. So the neuroplasticity now, you have this opportunity to retrain things. So I'm sharing this with you because when these things come up, if you can just breathe like you've done through the breathing techniques and that, just breathe to create some space so you don't go into reaction. Because as soon as you go into automatic reaction, it's kind of too late. Like you've already started that process. So quickly breaking the cycle so you have time for responding as opposed to reacting. And when you respond, it's from that like neutral space or where you can observe in that non-attachment and non-judgment. So you're aware of what's going on and happening, but you can see it like, okay, there's another part of myself that's going through this experience that is like traumatized, as opposed to this is me suffering in my life in all these ways. So through this, like really embracing shadow work, the more you can embrace shadow work and see it as like an opportunity for you to rehabilitate. So I don't want to say good or bad, but when trauma is coming up and when limiting beliefs and triggers, when these things are presenting themselves to you, it is an opportunity. And the better you get, like the more efficient you get at doing your shadow work, the more empowered you become. So, and this is why I was saying, don't be scared of shadow work, because anyone who is holding a really high frequency and embodiment at this time has a level of shadow mastery where they brought the shadow into light and into integration so their consciousness can return. And all of our family that is really struggling to integrate their soul, their monad, and their avatar like consciousness, there are breakdowns in the processing of shadow. There's conflict in it. There is attachment and duality and spiraling. And we've all experienced this. So I hope this explanation is like really just bringing a refocus to you. Because like I said, we're at that like 8-9 week, we're at the 9 week mark now. So this is where it begins. So when the same situation and spiritual lesson comes up for you, it's time to choose something different. And when we're choosing, we're energetically choosing a different pathway as well through our neuroplasticity to respond. So emotionally choosing first, like feeling first, and then secondly, responding with our mind, where it's kind of been backwards. You know, usually we go with our mind first.
What I've noticed the most about shadow work is often the emotions that are surfacing and the parts of yourself that are signaling to you that it's time to integrate these aspects. It often requires a level of slowing down and pause and reflection. So, what I'm feeling is so often people don't even realize that they're integrating something because if they're constantly on the go and you are so busy in your life that you will miss the signals and the subtleties within your energy fields, within your um, emotional body, that you may not even realize that something has been coming up for you. And then what happens is I feel like it kind of creates a level of compaction where then things start to build up to the point where they start to manifest into our reality because we didn't really catch them when they first started to like surface. So what I'm noticing or feeling or perceiving is like, especially those of our family who are just in that like overdrive energy all the time are going to struggle more with this because they're not in their balanced enough in their feminine to perceive the subtleties of the emotional body. And I feel that there is space that is needed to be able to receive the downloads and the signaling that your higher self and your emotional body is communicating with you. And so if you're one of those people who don't stop, then this is your reminder that in order for us to truly integrate what is coming in for you, it requires us to be still and to be able to surrender, whether it's that, one day a week, Sundays, let's say, where you take that time and you're just still, you're able to just be. And it's like in that beingness, we're able to receive and perceive. And this is what I feel is so important for us to remember and recognize, because without that pause, without that stillness, we're just not going to be aware of these subtler frequencies and changes that are happening within us. And so the other piece to this is for those of us who are able to be more balanced in our resting state, or we're more aware of the subtleties that are changes that are happening within our emotional body. And your life provides you the opportunity to be more still at times, or to have restful pauses, or you're able to be more in your own energy, then you're probably really good at picking up when things are subtly shifting, when you're having a contracted moment, or the energy is starting to come in where you feel a little bit down today, or you feel a little something coming in. And I feel like I'm definitely one of those people where I like know exactly how I'm feeling. Like every day it's like, okay, how am I feeling? I'm very in tune with my emotions. And I realized how in tune I am, that sometimes I start to judge like how many days a week I have those like moments of like integration or like contraction. And where if you're actually in tune, you can perceive that you have a lot of up and down periods where you're moving like through this like expansion, contraction. And I feel like this happens a lot for me. And I realize it's because I'm just so aware of it. And I think it's because not everyone is as aware that they're moving through these things. And so with that, if you're someone who's hyper aware of your integration processes and what you're moving through and your emotions, and you're very in tune with yourself, this is a very positive thing. And the other piece with that is to remember that we don't need to attach or identify it as there is something wrong with you. Because I feel we have a tendency to move through an emotion and then try to find a causation. Why am I feeling sad? And then the mind is like, oh, it's because of this. It's because of this. Our mind, our mental body starts trying to find a solution or fix what's happening, or goes into like hyperdrive trying to determine the causation of this sensation, because the the ego personality does not enjoy uncomfortable emotions. We have not been set up in society for to support us through uncomfortable emotions. We have been provided opportunities to suppress, repress, and avoid our emotions. So whenever you're perceiving an uncomfortable emotion coming up, automatically we've been entrained to seek pleasure to counteract the pain that we're feeling. So we've been actually conditioned to experience subtle like pain body emotions and look for pleasure, whether that's through food, through exercise, through entertainment, shopping, whatever it is that we've utilized to begin to try to counteract the negative feeling that we're processing. Then we start to again look for answers outside of ourselves, or we're trying to avoid or suppress what we're experiencing, which creates these patterns within our life where we make choices that are not really supportive for us, that actually, are detrimental to our emotional, mental, spiritual, physical well-being. And so unless we can really become good at processing our emotions and not judging them and not going into these avoidance suppression or other ways that we've tried to cope with emotions, then I feel what we're really here to master is how do we manage and cope with this? How do we allow ourselves to experience these emotions and make it okay to feel how you're feeling with non-attachment? And it was a big aha moment for me as of late, where I realized that my mind makes a lot of reasons as to why I'm feeling something. Oh, it's because of this, or this isn't going well in my life, or it's this person, or I must have to do with this. Like I search. It's like my mind is on like a search pattern. Like, what can I attach this like reason to that I'm feeling this way? And I realized that I can just feel sad to feel sad. I don't need to understand it. I don't need to figure it out. I don't need to attach to it. I can just feel that way. And it's really challenging for the ego personality to accept that, because when we don't have a necessary reason, then that means it's almost like we have to accept it. And in that acceptance is that surrender. And in that surrender means we're not trying to change it. Right. And so I feel that that is an important message, because a lot of what we're experiencing and integrating is not even to do with our current life. It's not even really actually about anything that's happening in your life. And I think that is the hardest part for us, is it's so frustrating to feel like we're not in control of how we're feeling. And I don't know if any of you've ever felt that way, where you're just like, no, like I want to feel happy like 99% of the time, or I want to feel this way. And when you're not feeling that way, then you can be in resistance to that. So I do feel that all of us are here to become exceptionally gifted empaths, because this is the way that we're going to be able to work through what we're processing, because we can't mentalize it. We can't allow our minds to process the emotions. The emotions need to be processed through feeling them, integrating them, accepting them, and slowing down. The emotional processing occurs through the feminine energy. It's when we're in that yin state of relaxation, breathing, pausing, connection. And that is connected to us having the ability to be in our feminine. And I feel strongly this is why a lot of males have a harder time processing ascension energies, because of the conditioning that has occurred through society, where a lot of men have a hard time processing their emotions. And 90% of our ascension process is emotional integration, which is connected to our shadow work. So if you look at the percentage of spiritual men in these kinds of communities, you'll notice that there is far less men doing this level of work. And that's not to say that they're not doing it, but there is, still quite a larger number of women that are here showing up for these classes and doing this level of work. And I feel it's connected to the feminine energy. It's connected to the emotional processing and the ability to be in the feminine, be in the surrender, in the emotional body, and to be in tune with your emotions. And the more that we're in resistance to that, the more that we try to bulldoze our feelings and avoid our feelings, repress our feelings, the more challenging this journey becomes. And so for all of us here that are, very empathic, very in tune with our emotions, able to be in our feminine, able to surrender and to slow down, all of us are probably quite gifted at processing our traumas and our shadows, simply because we have that capability and those tools to be able to work through those things. And so I just wanted to express that, because it's just the reality of what this situation or what we're all moving through, what it's required of us. And, we're here to integrate our feminine and our masculine. But when it comes to shadow work and emotions, it's primarily going to be the feminine energy that helps us to process that.
Beautifully expressed. Shadow work is such a integral part of our being and our journey. We have weaved this reality in a certain way through our incarnate experience. So all of your bad habits, traumas, paradigms, and beliefs that are either positively or negatively impacting you in your life and your reality have to come unweaved, come into that supportive expansion like phase for your journey. And this is like we were saying, the trauma. We process trauma because on the other side of that trauma is a part of yourself that has been fractured or fragmented that wants to return into the whole. These patterns that are negatively impacting your life or habits that you have, it's the same thing, right? There's a part of you that's created these habits as a coping mechanism instead of integrating that part of you. We have spun this reality in a certain way. And some of those things are serving us and some of them are not. So the shadow work is bringing those things that are not serving us into light. And this is why I was saying about the duality of it. I did this for such a long time where I was like, here we go again. Here comes another like something, or why do I have to go through this? Like, why do I have to have all these crazy experiences happening in my life? And I said this last night. I would say things, I would never wish this upon anybody. And I remember getting to the point to where I was carrying so much. I had one choice, and the choice was either break or put down the stuff that doesn't matter so I can work through whatever does matter. And anything that's showing up directly in your life and in your path right now is for you as much as you don't think it is. And that's a big life lesson. What is manifesting in your life, directly in your path and affecting you right now, is for you. It's to support you in choosing those higher conscious ways, in processing the trauma, in healing. Because those patterns have manifested to show you there's subconscious things within the psyche that need to be healed, corrected, or that have manifested this situation in your life. Why are we manifesting situations in our life that we really don't want? And this is the spinning of the false ascension matrix that has been weaved in our life. So there's an unraveling to these patterns, to these habits, to these beliefs, to these emotions. And that's the shadow cycle. That's the shadow work. So when there's a spiritual maturity that starts to come in at some point through this on your journey, where you realize shadow work means part of you is returning. So if I'm able to embrace this and become really good at doing shadow work, more of myself returns, the better I feel, higher frequency I hold, the less polarity integration I'm in all the time. And I think the easiest way to explain this is like if you were to look at grief. Right? Grief is an emotion where most people don't want anything to do with it. You know, it has that ugly, feeling because it's such a powerful emotion. So when you can find the beauty in grieving and embrace grieving, guess what you get to experience? A higher joy. Because the other side of grief is joy. You don't get to experience a high joy without being able to grieve. Because if you don't grieve, all of a sudden now you start experiencing less joy, where you get flatlined emotionally. This is why I'm explaining like shadow work. So that grieving is the shadow work, right? As an example, the grieving is the shadow work. So when we embrace the beauty in the shadow work, the beauty in the grieving, the beauty in creating new patterns and new cycles and healing, our trauma, there's a beauty to it. And when you can embrace that, it's like you start to rapidly transfigure your reality because there is the way that your reality is being projected to the world right now. So everybody who knows you, there's a projection of you that's being broadcast to them. And it's going to resonate differently with each person, depending on what their wounds, their trauma, and their shadows are. It hits everybody a little differently. But when you do the shadow work, that projection starts to shift. And people start to see you differently. You start to energetically show up differently in the world. The reality starts to change. So now, some of those people in your life probably have been there because you've trauma bonded with. So now that trauma is not there, you're realizing that there's something isn't in alignment and they kind of start shifting out. You start bringing in relationships that aren't built on trauma now. So this is to me like a master lesson that we're all here to learn and understand. And it's one thing to speak about this with each one of you, but it's a completely like another lesson to do it, to actually find the beauty in your trauma, find the beauty in your emotional processing, find the beauty in acknowledgement for choosing a different way when you have that opportunity. So with the neuroplasticity, for instance, when I had that aha moment, I remember a particular situation that happened in my life, and I just didn't question it. I was fully aware. I showed up for it, and I had this experience that I usually would have said would be horrible. But instead, I just went, okay, this is where it's at, and now I'm showing up to do what I need to do to get through what's been presented to me, and really embrace that. because I know the more efficient I can be in processing through this pain I'm feeling right now, there's a big up level of consciousness that's coming back for me. And on top of that, it's just like what my highest self has brought forward for me. So usually I would kick and I would scream, but I actually acknowledge like higher self, yeah, this one you brought in is a big one. And that was a moment where I realized, wow, all of these situations coming into my life have manifested in one way or another. So for me to unmanifest these situations and to manifest something higher in my life, I have to choose a different way of behaving and reacting through this situation, which is that avoid, suppress, repress. Don't do that. So to allow myself to feel it, to not try to figure everything out while my emotional spectrum is through the roof, but to allow the emotions to pass through like an open window. And then when I'm starting to calibrate a little bit through that wave of emotion and to come down, now I can respond. And I'm able, that's creating a new neural pathway, an emotional pathway. And now you're retraining your system into a higher conscious like matrix, which is bringing part of your soul back or bringing part of your incarnate matrix back, part of your inner child back, whatever it may be. And if you understand what we're sharing with you today, and you can really take this on in your life, there are some beautiful things that are going to unfold for you. Because you realize, do you know when you can show up for your shadow work in the same way you show up for your joy, you show up for your love, you show up for your favorite thing, when you can show up for your grief and your whatever it may be, your shadow work in the same way, it means now you're getting it. So that 0 point field is you not being, it's you starting to perceive where God operates at. Because when these situations are coming in, and now I'm not saying this is horrible, this is bad, or this is really good, but now I'm like, well, this is what's in front of me and it has been delivered to me. How do I show up in the best way that I can for this situation to honor myself for this lesson, for this event or circumstance? That's where God operates. And that's how now something that maybe you've been working on for 5 years was transcended or through inner alchemy in 30 minutes because you did it through that level of awareness. And you're able to now release the false perceptual lens that was held through that trauma because you created that new pathway. Right? I know like I'm kind of like going back and repeating a few things, but I'm really wanting this to sink in because this took me probably close to 10 years to have that one moment where I went, I get it now. I had that aha moment, thousands of hours of doing shadow work. And in one moment, it all changed for me because I was like, wow, I get shadow work now. It's not bad. Don't be scared of it. It's a beautiful thing. And we're kind of taught in our society that to banish those parts of yourself that are trying to come back, right?
The download that I'm receiving, which I've never even thought about it this way, but what I'm receiving is that there are a couple of different ways that we can process our trauma and our shadow and our emotions. And one of the ways is unconsciously, when we're not making time and space for our healing, then everything in our life will manifest for us to move through that healing through your job, through your friendships, your relationships, situations. And those are the things that are coming to you, and you're like, why me? Right? That is you processing your healing unconsciously and unaware of what you're manifesting and creating. The other way is what many of us are doing, which we are actively participating in our healing. So, through active participation and making space for our healing, we can actually be the ones that are connecting with our trauma, going inward and feeling the emotions and things that are coming up that are there and processing them through our own um, way of processing that isn't requiring an external circumstance to manifest to bring that emotion out. So I just brought that together. I'm like, wow. So
Mm.
that means through doing the bioregenesis container and doing these like healings and showing up, we are beckoning these things forward to actively participate in our healing so that we don't have to have, these different dynamics play out in our lives, so that we are making space for our healing. So think about that. We get to choose the life that we are creating through making space for our shadow and making space for our healing. Where most of the population has no idea that they had anything, any sort of wounds or trauma, and they're just unconsciously experiencing things like a car accident and an argument, or whatever it is that they're having these different experiences, and they think bad luck. Right, they're like, bad day, bad luck, I don't know why that happens, or why do these things keep happening to me, or that what a lot of people say is, bad things happen to good people, right? That's what people say because they don't understand the law of compensation. But through this process, we are all able to work through our own stuff without all of that, which means we are actively and consciously participating in our life and our healing. So each day, we should be carving out space and time to nurture ourselves in some way, shape, or form. This does not mean, you know, provoking or needing to like pull out of us like the shadows, right? What I mean is I'm going to give myself 20 minutes a day to meditate or to sit in nature or to breathe, or I'm going to actively do something that is supportive for my healing. And whatever comes forward in that time, letting go of expectations or attachments will be what I'm, needing to look at, or what my higher self wants me to focus on. Right. So if we all carved out time in our day for our healing, then we can actively participate in this process. And we all probably need like a few hours a day, just like sitting, journaling, feeling, connecting, right? All of the things that we start to do when we go through a spiritual awakening, it's intuitive because we need that space to heal. When we start working with crystals and sitting in nature, doing all of these things that they say are part of the spiritual awakening process, why do we do those things? Because we're crystal lover hippies? No, we're doing these things because we're intuitively guided to connect with things that are going to support our healing. Because we're actively participating in our healing, which is all of us moving through ascension in our own unique way that is going to support us the most. Now, there are many people that are unconsciously moving through their ascension, and they're probably family members of yours who you've seen have things happen where there's conflict in their life, or there's You always hear them saying they're in conflict with this person, or they're not getting along with their boss, or this is happening to them. And we know why those things are manifesting, because it's to support them in releasing their emotions and releasing and healing, right? But that is where they're at on their level of awareness. But we all have the ability to create and to choose how we're going to process things. So we can let things build up and we can keep ourselves super busy and we can fill our day with all kinds of things and, be from the moment we wake up in the morning, we're doing something, we're cleaning, going here, going there, doing all these things and avoiding the healing. Or we can plan our day that is going to support the emotional body, the mental body, the physical body, the spiritual body. Balance, right? How are we supporting ourselves in this journey of healing? And so if you're having a really difficult time right now in your life and your relationships feel challenging, your home life feels challenging, your work life feels challenging, you're having physical health issues, ask yourself, where is it that you are making space in your life to heal and to be in that like surrender energy, that feminine energy, that ability to nurture yourself, to, take those moments to integrate, to nap, to take a warm bath, to be in nature, be in the feminine. The feminine is supporting you in your integration and your healing and this ebb and flow. How we structure our day and the choices we make will determine how effortlessly we flow through this. And the better that we can get at supporting ourselves in our own unique path and being intuitive and asking like our higher selves, what do I need more of in my life to support me with what I'm currently moving through? And at some points, it'll be more rest, more, fruit, more meditation, more time in nature. Really being in tune with your intuition and knowing what you need, because people can suggest things for you, and I could write you all an itinerary of things that I think would be great for you, but only you truly know what you need, what your emotions need, what your inner child needs, what your um, mental body needs. I know for me and for many people, we have a lot of us struggle with our mental bodies, and so we do need that meditation support, that mindfulness support. And I feel like so many of us neglect that because it's uncomfortable to sit with our thoughts and we'd rather do something else. Right.
Mhm.
So I think it's important to just really be aware, to bring that conscious awareness and lucidity into our life, our day-to-days, because there isn't an off switch, right? There's no, I'll deal with my healing later, or I'm going to process it on the weekend, or, it's like, how do we integrate it? How do we create a balanced lifestyle and approach so we can really consciously move through these energies and move through these emotions in a way that's supportive and not continually getting to that point of overwhelm and breakdown, because that is traumatic in itself. We can let things build, we can let things, continually compact and turn on themselves till it becomes this big thing. Or we can, oh, I'm feeling this today. How can I make space for this? And tuning in with the self and asking yourself, like, how am I feeling? How am I doing today?
I just want to also touch on being the active participant, because shadow work happens when shadow work comes up. And when does shadow work, happen in our day? It's when you're in the lineup at the grocery store. It's when you're in the parking lot or on the highway. It's if you have a boss who says something to you that,
Mm.
it's could be a partner, could be your children. It's these situations that usually happen like in everyday life. So the shadow work also is everything Rosalie's saying about carving out the time. Absolutely. Because that helps train you for the real life situations that are unfolding moment by moment. Because that's where it needs to be applied. This is why we are doing the meditation and explaining these things. So you can process in those times, but you can also do it on the fly in real life too. It's such a huge level of mastery. And if you take this on in a really like new light, hopefully after this conversation today, you're going to feel the energetic shift. You're going to have to remind yourself to coach yourself through what we're sharing right now, because it's your job to be your own coach while you're being the active participant. And while those situations and triggers are coming up, you have to coach yourself through it with what we're sharing. You have to be your own coach in your life. And this is amazing because you become so empowered. Because these situations that you had previously judged or labeled as the horrible experiences or the ugly stuff or the pain or the sadness, when you can really embrace that level of mastery through it, nothing that will stop you. And it is so empowering that no matter what comes up in your life, you're like, I got this. And now your trajectory is starting to shift. You're like, it's been a little while since I've had one of those. Not as polarizing all the time now. Till the next curveball comes.
I think that's an important point to illuminate as well. That we forget that this is why we actually came here, which is to heal ourselves. Um,
Our genetics, our ancestry.
yeah, it's like this is a big, major part of why we're here. And a lot of people do not want to do the healing work because it feels like it's never ending if you perceive it that way. But if you perceive it from a space of I'm healing thousands of lifetimes in this lifetime, right? Then it's different. You're able to understand that this is part of the process of integration and embodiment and ascension is to process the energies that come up for us and work through them. And it's like in that ease and in that surrender and in that letting go of the resistance and the expectation of what your life needs to be, what if we actually just trusted that everything that you're experiencing is perfect for you? What if we actually surrendered to God and we said, thank you for bringing to me exactly what I need to heal all of these parts of myself? What if your life is designed perfect, absolutely perfect to integrate all of the parts that your soul wanted to integrate? What if we could stop trying to mold our life in this controlled, contorted way that it needs to be this thing that we want it to be this way so badly? What if we actually just let go of all of that and realize that through the process of surrendering and trusting and flowing with our life and being present with it, that actually we can create all of the joy and the happiness that we want, as long as we are able to trust that what is presenting itself to us right now and things that are occurring in our life is actually serving us in some way, shape, or form. And remembering like our souls chose all of the different situations, the people, where you live, all of these different things to support you with healing something within you, showing you something, helping you to reach all of your goals. Your soul has goals too. The ego personality has goals, that dream car, that dream house. And then there's the soul. It's like, yeah, that's great and all, but you need to integrate that like trauma that you've been holding on to for like, 6 eons. So we have to understand that we're here to work with the soul as well, and to not be in resistance to our healing and our lessons, because those are actually what's really important. That the ego personality will be constantly chasing something. You'll always be chasing the next thing. The ego will always want something material or something else or something that somebody has. And those things are great to experience. But the part of you that's eternal and the healing that's you're able to do in this lifetime is so much more valuable than the possessions or the things that your ego personality want, because that healing and the work that you do in this lifetime will impact you and your experiences onward in all of your incarnations. Right? So if we think about it that way, it's like long-term goals. Do your healing work, do your shadow work, let go of the control, let go of the resistance, let go of the needing to, make things be something that they're not. And the more that we can surrender to that, the easier we'll flow with our life and the more joy we'll have as well. Because if we're always in that state of fight and resistance with ourself and our soul and our life, then that energy is not comfortable. It's, that state of resistance and control can be really challenging and it'll be really difficult for you.
Have we talked about the lie matrix and bioregenesis yet?
The lie matrix.
Yeah, I don't think we have. There's so just as we're explaining like how we unweave the false ascension matrix through our shadow work, and through this like rehabilitation, when star seeds are awakening and we're on this like journey, something we all hit a period in our life is speaking our authentic truth. And the reason why it's so challenging to speak our authentic truth at times, because I'm going to give you a quick example. If you're in a relationship and you don't speak your authentic truth because maybe you think maybe they won't like it, or maybe it's a little bit of uncomfortable conversation, so you're just going to let it go. And now, because you didn't speak at that time, now there's another situation that's going to come in that's going to give you an opportunity to speak it. And you don't speak it again because you don't want to rock anything. Now, eventually, there's been all of these situations that have occurred where you haven't spoken your authentic truth. Now it comes where there's all this energetic weight attached to it. And now, if you actually speak your authentic truth, you're worried it's going to break the relationship because it's weaved this matrix of like this lie matrix. And it's through the energy of just not being like true. That matrix is already held through your consciousness too, is you have to look back through your life experiences from being a child, teenage self, adult self, all the way through where you didn't feel safe to express what you thought was true. So you didn't share that. So we start weaving this like matrix, which is actually the opposite of what our soul wants. Our soul wants you to speak truth. So as we activate our heart, our higher heart, and our throat chakra, this matrix needs to unravel. And now as this is starting to unravel, situations are coming into your life where you're being tested on speaking your truth. Sometimes we get this energy in our throat. It's like, oh, why is this so uncomfortable? Well, where are you not speaking truth in your life? Where have you given your power away? Who's that person that you're just doing all these things for that you really don't want to do them for, but you're like, oh, yeah, that's okay. I'll do that. Right? That's not speaking our authentic truth. So it builds up in the throat, and it's part of that like deception or lie matrix that is like unsovereign to like who your core of your being is. We can speak truth without it being hurtful. It's not about reacting and punishing somebody. How do we find that place where that truth that's important to us? Yes, it's going to be hard. Is it going to bring up emotions for you? Absolutely. Will you go through self-doubt about probably speaking your truth? Most likely. But when you can do it from the right place, you go through such a healing. And now those situations stop manifesting in the way they were. Because there'll come a point on this like journey of bioregenesis and awakening where almost every situation in your life comes in and directly points at you to speak your truth. I feel this is an important message for the group. And this is one I had to learn. And I had to move through this. And it's another part of the shadow work. Your soul, standing in your sovereignty and your sovereign pillar, it's not doing like these things that are completely out of resonant like with who you are. So as we're like retrieving ourselves and ourself is returning, when we're doing things that are, you know, in disharmony to like our core, and we're saying it's okay, think about what that's doing. I spoke about this earlier, and someone said, does this mean I'm not supposed to do the dishes? And no, because you have human responsibilities, and you're here to show up as the best human that you can be for your earthly responsibilities. So it's not about doing the dishes. Those are like those earthly tasks you want to master, you know, to show up for in your life. But like I said, if you have that one person in your life who's always asking you to do things and you don't want to do them, and you haven't for a year or 2 years, and you're still doing them, and you haven't said, you know what, I actually really don't enjoy this. That's different, right?
Part of the deception is when you feel a certain way, but you speak something different. So when you say yes, when you really mean no, or where you withhold information from someone or a situation because you're afraid that if you really say what you feel or speak truth or share what you really mean, then that is going to create an uncomfortable situation for you. So, as long as we have some form of deception in our relationships or in our communication, then that level of deception is an aspect of the shadow
Mm-hmm.
that we are not willing to face or look at, because deception and lies is how, the energies can come through that, because you're actually creating a space for the shadow to, take root basically. So if you're wanting to embody your higher self and be in alignment with your soul, you have to actively show up in ways that are authentic to you.
Mm-hmm.
So authenticity, integrity, truth, that is a level of fearlessness that is required of us on this journey. And it requires commitment and devotion to our authentic self. And there are many of us who still have fears about being true to who we are, fears of showing up in the world as we authentically are. So when we're speaking about the shadow, well, aspects of you that you are afraid to share or ways that you hold back, or ways that you are deceiving yourself or deceiving others, is holding on to shadow that you have, you know, like you've created a reason why it's okay to have that, right? It's okay for me to, like, not communicate with my partner how I really feel because I'm trying to protect the relationship, right? Your relationship is now rooted in some form of deception,
Mhm.
and you're being deceptive. Or, different ways that we allow the shadow to make choices, whether we are, being like emotionally manipulative. We really want something, and we're going to now find a way to get it that's out of integrity. Shadow. So sometimes our wounds and our shadow aspects can come through our choices and decisions. And we may not have thought about it that way before, but we are wanting to illuminate all aspects of the self without judgment, of course, but we're here to be in integrity and in a level of authenticity with our soul and our higher self. So we do need to be aware of aspects of self that are still operating out of integrity. And so when we want to come into greater alignment with our soul and our higher self, we can start by asking to bring in the light of truth in our lives, and to not fear the darkness, to not fear the shadow, to not be afraid of aspects of yourself that are still holding on to levels of wounding, or we sometimes refer to it as dark mother, dark father, because those are where the energies work through you, or these are like the back doors. This is how things happen. This is how we perceive so-called attacks. When we feel like we're being attacked or victimized, it's coming through the shadow. It's coming through those aspects of you that you've not looked at or have unhealed trauma around. So as long as there is fear within you, that is a back door. As long as you're holding on to guilt and shame, this is how energies can work through that, right? That it doesn't work through our healed selves, our light, or our hearts, or when we're in love, in a loving space. It works through our shadows. It works through our wounds. And this is how we often at times become um, vessels for negativity or um, entities. So, for example, if we have a trigger and now we're getting angry and we're projecting upon someone, and our pain body is activated, and we're not being conscious of how we're speaking or communicating, we just opened a door, and now you're a vibrational match to everything that's vibrating at anger. And so that's how entities and attachments and things come in. And of course, we did not mean to hurt someone, or we didn't want to, open ourselves up to that. But this is what we need to be aware of. And so if you do not want to be a vessel for, you know, entities or parasitic energies, or to be a vessel for dark energies to work through you, then look at your shadows, look at your the ways that you are in integrity and not in integrity. And some of this can be really challenging. We really, on this journey, are asked to face ourselves, because I think sometimes we just want to perceive the light, and we're afraid for others to see the darkness. So we're afraid for others to truly know us, as if we will not be lovable if our partner knew that there were aspects of self in the shadow that were manipulative or that were selfish, for example. And it's to recognize that we all have light and dark. We all have aspects of self that are held in wounding or trauma, or that are still holding on to these patterns or ways of being. But ultimately, if we're fearless and courageous, then we can acknowledge those parts of self and take accountability. Oh, maybe that's not how I wanted to respond. Or maybe I was being manipulative or condescending or selfish. And that's okay. But I have the power to look at those parts of myself and ask myself, what do I need to heal that? So that I can come into greater alignment with the God spark, with my soul, with my light, with my higher self.
So much goodness being shared in this today,
Mm.
that I hope you really all just allow it to like integrate and take in. Through when we came into sacred union, one of the promises that we made to each other was to speak our truth. And it has been such a unique experience because we've done that through our entire relationship.
Mm.
And because of that, the foundation that we've built for our Hyros Gamos and sacred union is very strong and very
Mm.
powerful. And I didn't even realize how rare it is in relationships to be that truthful until you experience it for yourself firsthand. And if you can speak truth with someone or your partner, or work your way into this being more of a regular thing as you're unraveling what's already been done, it starts to build this deeper connection and bond and
Mm.
foundation for you. And if there's relationships where you can't speak truth or they can't speak truth with you, what are you guys hiding? Because that stuff that you're hiding in the shadow is what is actually the foundation that's building the relationship. So, you know,
Which is where the interference can come through.
the interference, the back doors, all of that comes through that. Because when we don't speak our truth on how we feel, we've now become kind of like a doormat, or we've consented to an energy, as an example.
Mhm. Which really, we ask ourselves, why are there these energies or entities that like are waiting, right? It's because they're looking for energy. They're energetic parasites. And a lot of the shadow forms and entities, they feed on the lower emotions that, because everything is energy. So when you project an extreme emotion, that is like food for these like entities that can't generate their own energy. So they need to parasitize on others. So people who have a tendency to be really dramatic and are always complaining or in these extreme states of emotions probably have a lot of energy parasites and entities that manipulate and work through them, because they're basically harvesting their chi and their life force, and they're like being used like food. So we do not want to be parasitized by entities and things, or to give our precious life force away to things like this. So we have to be accountable for where there is leakages or susceptibilities or weaknesses in our field, so that we can resolve and heal this, so that we can become more sovereign and have more of our life force and energy to give to things that we choose consciously, like things that matter to us, like through love and through our creations and through our devotion and giving to like our family and our relationships, right? So we don't want to play into archetypes of drama and patterns of all of these ways that create a lot of um, that waste a lot of energy on things that really are not supportive for us. So we really want to be consciously creating and generating our energy towards things that are really supportive of our soul growth and our creations.
I feel like we've given you all pretty powerful class on shadow work today,
Yeah.
and how to embrace that, and the power of speaking our authentic truth and reclaiming our sovereignty and our voice, and to know that speaking truth isn't about not having boundaries. It's about establishing safe boundaries and the parameters and the laws of structure for your life, for how consciousness and energy is going to move and flow through you and through your existence within these energetic relationship dynamics. Powerful.
What a great learning opportunity we all get to experience through all of this. It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
And some of you have a responsibility in this lifetime to rehabilitate the voice,
Mm.
whether it's the feminine voice or the masculine voice. Uh, there's a lot of contracts to reclaim the voice or your ancestry and your lineage. So if resonates with you and you realize, yeah, like I have an issue with speaking up, this is a master lesson in a cycle for you. And you don't reclaim the voice without moving through the level of initiation of speaking truth. All right, beloveds, hope you enjoyed this Ascension class. We are going to take a short intermission. We will be back for the activation.
See you all soon.